Now, and thank you for joining us. After reading several comments and speaking with a number of you, we're kicking, we are kicking this off again with productivity. But first, some of you know, I want to let some of you know that I'm Sabrina. I'm the group administrator and the founder of Supporting World Hope, a nonprofit consulting company I started after 25 years in the industry. I started this group and the company to support nonprofit professionals who are often overworked, overwhelmed, and stressed out. And I cannot think of a better topic to talk about than productivity with Sara Cruz of Sara Cruz Coaching. And she's also a certified high performance coach. So you're watching this actually in replay because we did have some tech issues, but to help us with the algorithms to keep this interview at the top, if you could just give us a like or a heart or let us know where you're watching from, that will really help us. And we are so excited to be here. So Sara, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here talking about one of my favorite topics in the world, since it's been such a key component to my personal success. I used to be super stressed out, super burnout, overworked. I actually ended up leading to panic attacks personally because I was so overworked and stressed out. So diving into productivity was really something I needed to do for my physical and mental health, and it's obviously continued for many years. So I am a research analyst during the day. I'm also a certified high performance coach, and I'm so excited to be here.
Good. I'm so excited to have you because I think this is something that's going to be really critical for our nonprofit brothers and sisters. And I know you have a great presentation that you want to present to them. So what I am going to do is I am going to share the screen. Now, for those of you that don't know, I am relatively new at this process, and I know Sara is a professional. So I'm going to hit the share screen button and allow multiple participants can share simultaneously. Perhaps that would allow you to share the screen. Let's find out.
I don't need to share the screen.
You don't need to share the screen.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
So I'm going to turn it over to you, Sara, and let you go.
Sure. So I'm actually, because you guys are such givers, so compassionate, you have such a passion for what you do when you're in the nonprofit world, a lot of the traditional productivity tips and tricks like time blocking or using the Pomodoro technique or all of these things that are very well known and they work for a lot of people. With honesty, I don't think they're super realistic for your unique situations. I'm sure many of you are wearing multiple hats. You have a lot of responsibilities, both professionally and personally. So I kind of want to share today 6 things that you're likely doing that are creating chaos in your life and what to do instead. And then I do have some really simple productivity hacks that you can do. I don't care how busy you are. It's definitely doable. So I will just jump in and share the first one. So the first thing you're likely doing that's creating chaos in your life is, I'm sure all of you have these little devices right here, these wonderful things that are attached to us. It's never far from us. But I want you to think about how many of you immediately reach for your phone when you wake up. Do you do that, Sabrina? Mm-hmm. Yep, she's shaking her head.
Yes, I do. Despite telling myself don't do that, I do it.
Yes. So that's super common with so many people, especially when you have a really demanding job. You immediately are going to wake up and then you start looking at your email or checking something out. But the problem with that is, and I want you to remember this, when you're doing that, you're starting your day off on someone else's agenda, not yours. And when you really take that commitment to yourself to not have any technology the first 30, 45 to an hour in the morning, it really is going to allow you to do things that's going to fuel you. You're busy. You have a giving, caring, compassionate career. If you're starting your day based on someone else's agenda, you have no time to, as they say, fill your own cup in the morning. So a really great habit and it will actually help you with your productivity because you can use that time in the morning to set yourself up for success, which will lead to you having a more productive day by just simply don't pick up the phone for the first 30, 45 minutes, an hour when you're up. So that's definitely number one that I wanted to share that I'm sure Sabrina can relate and many of you can relate. But I want to encourage you to start your day on your own agenda and not someone else's agenda. So the second kind of tip that I'd like to share that has to do with productivity is I want you to think about your schedule. And likely you have meetings, you have things on your calendar that you have obligations to do. Do you schedule personal time? Is that on your schedule? If you look at your calendar on Sunday night and look at your week upcoming, do you have anything in there that has anything to do with you, with your personal time?
Does it count when I put up there, I need to reach out to the bank to do this for my personal self?
Well, it does. It definitely does, because that's a great habit. I have everything on my calendar, time with my partner, time with family, time with friends. So I would encourage everyone to do that. And I'm go so far as I color code it. So it's a quick glance. Sunday night, I can tell, well, I have this much personal scheduled, because that's purple. I have blue is business, and I have green for this. So I can quickly glance at it and be like, oh, I only have one purple thing throughout the week. Like, it's Sunday. Maybe I should figure that out now before I get to Friday. And I'm like, shoot, I definitely did nothing for myself. And whether that's meditate, yoga, have lunch with a friend, whether it's call your mom Wednesday night, it doesn't matter what that looks like for you. But I have found that a lot of very busy people, they don't schedule personal time. And again, that helps you, that leads to burnout, that leads to overwhelm, because you're go and doing all these things, and you're doing all the things, and you're really busy and you're accomplishing stuff, but you're never doing anything for yourself that fills you up or makes you happy. So that's definitely something that I would encourage. That's a productivity tip, because the more fulfilled you feel emotionally, the more healthy you are mentally, meaning you're not stressed out, you're not overwhelmed, you've spent time with family, the more productive you're going to be, because you're in the right headspace, you're feeling better, which means you're going to be more efficient.
Okay. Can you do me a favor?
Of course.
I know you said it was personal color code, business is a color code, and you gave a third one. What was the other one?
Well, it honestly depends on your life. So, like, for example, someone that has a nonprofit, you would color code like your work hours as one. And that would be like business. And then you want to schedule personal time. You want to schedule things like banking and that kind of stuff has another color code for me. So if I need to run to the bank or go grocery shopping or something like that, that's more just life obligations, like things that you need to get done. So those have a separate category for me, but it really boils down to your life and your lifestyle. If you have kids, I encourage you having a color for your kid. If you have, this is my morning time with my kids, it's 30 minutes. I don't use the phone. I'm just with my children, dropping them off at school. And then at night, maybe it's dinner. You have that color. I heard about their day. So really just use the concepts. You can at quick glance see what your schedule looks like, but also, like, if you have kids, have a color for them, have a color for family time or your partner or whatever that looks like for you.
That makes sense. Thank you for that.
Of course. The next one that is decreasing your productivity is, I'm going to make a very safe assumption that, especially with the amazing souls in this group, not many of you are saying no enough. And you're smirking, Sabrina.
Yes.
So I have a feeling that you might be able to relate to that statement.
Yes.
And that will majorly impact your productivity. However, I do want to frame that a little bit differently. So no doesn't have to be a hard no. Especially if you're busy or you run a nonprofit or you're involved in the community, which I guarantee if you have a nonprofit, you're involved in the community as well. There are things that are going to come up and you're going to be asked to do things. So It may have to do with something during your workday, like, hey, can you help me with this? Or it may have to do with your community. Hey, we're hosting this event. You know, can you come and support us? Or, you know, whatever the case may be. It doesn't have to be a hard no. But when you constantly are saying yes, everything you say yes to is depleting the hours you have in the day. And it's impacting your priorities and what's important to you and the things that you need to get done. It can be a soft no. And by that, I mean something simple, like, I would love to support you with that. I'm not available that day, but next week, Tuesday around lunchtime, I'd be happy to meet with you and discuss that. So it doesn't have to be a hard no. It can be a, I'd love to do that, but you know, this week is too crazy for me. But I've looked at my calendar. I'd love to get together and talk about that. Could you do Tuesday of next week instead? That way you're not compiling by saying yes, 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 yes. And before you know it, you've lost half your week with all your yeses. And you don't have to just no. You can say, not right now. Or, and if it is a hard no, don't ever feel like you have to explain it. You know, be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I have a prior obligation. I'm not able to make that work. End of it. You don't have to defend yourself. There's no need to. There's a soft way to say no, but that's definitely something like a productivity tip that a lot of people probably don't think about. But if you think about how many times you say yes and how much that impacts your hours in a day or your time, it can add up.
Yeah, I like that. A soft no. I wrote that down.
Yeah, definitely soft no. The fourth thing is, I guarantee that most of you are multitasking. And by that, I mean, you probably have 20 windows open on your computer. You are probably looking at email on this screen. You probably have this project going on this screen. It is so common with people that are very busy or have a lot on their plate at work. You know, as I said, as a nonprofit, you likely are wearing many hats. You're probably dealing with this meeting, trying to launch this program, maybe writing this grant, all of those things that you're in conjunction, like, are kind of moving parts at the same time. But the truth is, and you'll see, you're welcome to look it up, but multitasking can impact you anywhere from 10 to 23 minutes. So every time you flip tasks, it can take 10 to 23 minutes for your brain to refocus on the task you're doing. So if you think about how much you're flipping back and forth, you're actually losing an extreme amount of like efficient, productive time just by doing the simple thing that most of us do of multitasking. So what I would encourage you to do is think of things like themes. So if you're, per se, writing a grant and you have to add your mission statement, and then you have to put your financials together, and then you have to actually enter the description of, you know, how it's going to work with whatever, and then how you're going to use the funds. And obviously, you all know there's many parts to a grant. But if you're doing something like that, instead of gathering this one piece and then jumping to another task, try to allocate an amount of time and have a theme. You know, or an even simpler example is, think about your email. You know, my email is insane. It's insane. And I'm sure most of yours is too. You're being pushed and pulled in a million directions. When you sit down to look at your email, don't look at one email and then address that. Have a little, you know, like a piece of paper, a notebook, something. Scan through it, see what your priorities are. What are you waiting on someone from? Are you seeing their name? But get through like your email, or allocate 15 minutes, and don't just go this email, this task, then I'll go back to an email, then I'll read this email. You're jumping all over the place. So even as simple as email, try like allocate 15 minutes and dedicate it to your inbox, and then, or 30 minutes and dedicate it to your inbox. So you're creating those little themes so you're not multitasking as much. Does that make sense?
That makes sense to me. I know when I used to get overwhelmed, I would, and let me know if we're on the same page here, but I would sit down and I would say, okay, resource development. This is every kind of the 3 tasks that I have to focus on around resource development. Board development. These are the 3 tasks I have to focus in around board development. So it was a lot of things that I had to do, but if I really categorize those things and say, I'm just going to focus on this category and these 3 things right now, it helped me with my sense of overwhelm.
No, and I love that. And actually, as I get into like 3 distinct tips I'm gonna mention, I'm actually gonna piggyback off what you just said, but I'm gonna do it in a little bit of a different framework. So that's great.
Okay.
That's
and I like to email what you said, because usually I try to do one at a time, and that's a great tip that you just gave. So
yeah.
I'm gonna
And then, you know, even things like your browser, if you're not using the window, close it. You know, if you're working on a project, and I understand things come up and you're going to have to put out fires, and I understand that things come through, but even if you're really like working on a specific project and you need 30 minutes, close out your email. I guarantee if it's a fire, they have your phone number and they can call you. And that's the reality. Like, anyone that you really needs immediate assistance on something has another way to get a hold of you other than your email. So instead of that email box like ding, 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 ding in the background constantly, and you're watching the little icon go up and up and up while you're trying to focus, every time you're looking at it, you're distracting yourself.
How do you feel about this tip? And I tried to do it. It was a little bit difficult, but only checking your emails at a certain time, like at 10 in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
If you have the flexibility to be able to do that, I highly encourage it. Even during my day job as a research analyst, I can do that, and I do that. Like, I don't have my email open all of the time, but I can't do it just like 2 or 3 times a day. So even if I'm working solid for 50 minutes, I'll take that next 10 and I'll pop into my inbox and see like, oh, I'm waiting on this from this client. I need to do this. So yes, I absolutely encourage that. And like I said, if you have the type of position where you can do that, absolutely do that. But for someone like me, or, you know, try like 45 minutes, and then when you take a little like breather or step away from a task, then jump in. So there's baby steps. And with any of these, try it.
Yeah.
It might, I mean, that's why I'm sharing a lot of different stuff, and why all the training that Sabrina's had in this group has been amazing. There's so many options. All you can do is try. Some things you might be like, wow, this is great for me. And others you're like, that's just not going to work with what I got going on. And that's okay too. But at least like give it a chance, and maybe you need to tweak it. You know, like Sabrina said, maybe I'll check it at 10 and 2. Maybe you can't do that, but you could do once an hour instead of always having it open, and just see how that works. You know, meet yourself in the middle.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense to me.
The next thing you're probably doing wrong that's creating chaos. I want to just ask one question. When you think about anything that you do with your job, with your life, do you know how long it takes to do? And I'll tell you a funny story. I coached a woman one time, and her productivity was a huge struggle for her. So I had her do a kind of how you spend your time and how long things take you exercise for 48 hours. Yes, it's time consuming, but it's worth it if you really need to like get down and dirty and really know how you're spending your time and where you're losing time. But she was like giving herself 15 minutes to water her plants. And it may be super silly, but when she actually timed it, it took her an hour and a half. Now, granted, she lives in Florida, lots of green, and I get it, but it's a very simple concept. But if you think about how many tasks you put on your calendar, or you think, okay, I'm going to sit down and I have 15 minutes, I'm going to be able to do this. Is that humanly possible to get that done in 15 minutes? And yet you're only giving yourself 15 to do it. And then you're wondering why you're stressed out and overwhelmed and feeling like maybe defeated or frustrated. But are you being realistic? Does that task truly only take 15 minutes? So it's just a challenge that I like to encourage anyone that's busy. Whenever you're allocating time for anything, even if it's go to the bank, if your bank is 5 minutes away, maybe you can put 15 minutes is realistic. If your bank is 15 minutes away, not really realistic to put a trip to the bank in 15 minutes of your time. So it's just something that many people don't really think about, that can really impact your productivity and what you're getting done. If you're only giving yourself this much time, it's not even possible. Again, that leads to overwhelm, stress, frustration. Like you feel defeated and depleted and you're like, oh, I didn't get it done. Well, maybe you didn't give yourself enough time.
That makes sense. I'm telling you, I'm taking down notes for myself. It's all becoming crystal clear.
And the last kind of thing that you're likely doing that's causing chaos is you're probably suffering from busy brain. And by that, I mean, throughout the day, no matter what you're doing, you probably have a million things going on in your head. So for example, you have a meeting that afternoon. You may be working on another task in the morning, but in your head, you're thinking, is my presentation ready? Do I have everything? Did I email that person? Is the Zoom, did I send out the Zoom link? You have all of these things going on, and I call that busy brain. But when you have busy brain going on, you're not actually focused on the task at hand. So a simple way that I have found to help with that, I call it journal out the junk, and it's just because it's easy to remember. But I keep a notebook with me all of the time. And when I have that busy brain that starts going, instead of like, oh, did I set that meeting? Instead of going into my email, did I set that meeting? Looking and taking all that time, I take my pen, I make a little note, check meeting, and I keep going. And then I'm journaling out the junk of my busy brain. And then when I'm done with my task, I can look at that list and I'm like, oh, okay, let me check that now. And it's just an easy way, instead of flipping back and forth, to just kind of check yourself. And it's okay to scribble it out, journal out the junk, but then don't take the time to deal with it now.
I do that too, Sarah. I'm just laughing here because I've written myself a note, like you said, scribble it, and then I'm like, what the hell was I trying to say? I don't understand.
Oh, I've had that happen too, where my notes like so messy, and I have pretty neat handwriting, but I've definitely done that. I'm like, oh wait, did I write it this way on the paper? Like trying to figure out what was I saying. But if I can't figure out what I'm saying, it might not have been that important.
That's what I figured too.
Okay, one less thing I gotta worry about.
That's too funny. So I've done that. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know what that says, or I don't write enough detail. And I'm like, what? How are these things connected? So just be careful when you do that one. Like write legibly and put enough detail.
Right? So those are kind of the 6 things that I wanted to share that someone might be doing and what to do instead that will really impact your productivity. And then I'm just going to quickly share 3 kind of tips to increase your productivity that aren't your traditional kind of teachings possibly. So the first one is actually tied to what Sabrina already talked about how she broke down resource development and the 3 things she needed to work on. So I call this my GPS, and it stands for goals, priorities, set intentions. And the concept is you can apply, I encourage you to apply this personally and professionally, but for productivity purposes, I'm going to keep this just to professional for this. So for example, Sabrina will use what you just said. One of your goals in your organization is resource development. We'll say that. Okay. Then you have your priorities of that. Whatever you need to do, your 3 tasks that you listed, like those are your priorities of what you need to keep that needle moving forward. But the third part of it, set intentions, is every day, which will tie into my next tip, I want you to set 3 to 5 intentions. And the concept is, don't set 25. You're going to set yourself up for failure. I used to be the queen of a to-do list that was 500 things. And I'd be like, then you feel defeated. I'm like, wow, I got a lot done. I did, but it looks like I didn't touch my list. So you're setting yourself up for that mental defeat. But if you're constantly thinking goals, priorities, set intentions, and every day you're setting 3 to 5 intentions, and those intentions are getting done. It doesn't matter what comes up, flood, anything could happen, and you're committing to yourself that morning that you're getting done those 3 to 5 intentions. And if you make that a habit every morning, and your intentions are always aligned with your priorities, that are aligned with your goals, it's a super simple way to consistently be productive and move the needle toward what you're trying to achieve or toward your objective. So it's very similar to what you just talked about when you talked about how you break it down and make it easier to manage.
Yeah.
This is just more direct. So if you have a personal goal, you know, I want to lose weight. I'll just give an example. I want to lose weight. So your priority is maybe I need to eat healthy. Maybe I should work out. Maybe I should take a supplement. Maybe I should lay off the soda. You know, you could list a million things that were attached to that goal. But every day, one of your intentions should be aligned with that goal. So it doesn't always have to be, oh, work out this day, but you should be working out or eating healthy or choosing to not have that soda or whatever. So it's just that's just another example of how you can apply it to like your personal life. But it's a great habit because it's simple and it makes things like micro steps instead of having this big, huge, intimidating list. And that'll really help you with your productivity because you'll have focus on something that's really important to your objective or your mission or, you know, what is aligned with you.
Yeah, your fundraising.
Yeah,
it's so
anything.
overwhelming. Yeah, but if you do something each day, it helps move that needle. So
yeah. The other thing that I want to share that's really a tip is I would encourage anyone to have opening and closing office rituals. And by that, I mean 5 minutes. 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night. So when you first sit down at your computer, you walk into your office, whatever that situation looks like for you, like I'm in my home office, if you're going to work, spend the first 5 minutes setting yourself up for success. By that, I mean, look at your calendar. Do things like this, set intentions. Like, what do I need my focus to be today? You can also think like, who do I need to make sure I reach out to today? Who do I need to make sure I connect with today? You can ask yourself all these prompting questions and just take a few minutes and just kind of jot those answers down. It's giving you like that mindset in the morning where you're already setting yourself up to be productive because you're taking the 5 minutes to almost prepare yourself for the day. You know the meetings you have because you've looked at your calendar. You know what projects you're working towards. You know who, maybe I'm waiting on Sally for this piece to add to my grant. Well, I better make sure and email Sally today and see, well, you know, what's the status on that? If you're doing like that little habit and then the same at night. So at night, you know, obviously I would encourage you to like celebrate yourself a little bit and how amazing you are and everything you got done. Because I feel like, especially when you have so much going on, you know, especially in the nonprofit world, you feel like, yeah, you might be doing your best, but you also at times probably feel like it's not enough. You know, you can't get it all done. Like there's always more people to help. There's always more things to work towards. So part of that can be celebrate your day, but it can also be the same kind of thing that you did in the morning. Like, what do I need my priorities to be in the morning? So then when you get in the morning, you've already got that part of your morning ritual done. I just closed the office. I know from the close of day, I need to focus on these 3 things tomorrow. So that can transfer over to the morning. But 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night is really helpful. And even having that little 5-minute assessment at night, what worked really well today? And take note of it. What challenges did I encounter and how did I overcome them? Those are lessons. So if there's something that went really well, like, oh, we had this meeting and I followed a different format and it went great. The feedback was great. Well, maybe making a note of that would benefit you as a leader moving forward. If you know, oh, I had a great feedback on that. Or, oh, I had this challenge today. Or I struggled with this and this is how I fixed it. Maybe next time, if you've jotted down and you've taken some time to think about it, you won't spend as much time figuring it out next time. So again, you're increasing your productivity because you're constantly checking in and learning and growing in the morning at night as you set yourself up.
That's a really good tip. I was listening to that because I don't think I close my night very well.
Okay.
So that
I didn't used to either.
That helps me. A
lot. but yeah, and again, it's simple. Like I promised you when I said to do this, I would share easy stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to tell you like these crazy things that in the reality of the nonprofit world, you might not be able to just shut your office door for 8 hours, turn off your email, turn off your phone and be like, I got stuff to do, so leave me alone. Like,
it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. And I know that. So this stuff is just more designed for like simple, like very simple application that's not going to drastically change your entire day. But if you set these little habits in place, it can drastically change your day over time. And then the last thing I just want to briefly touch upon, as I say, you can't close your door, is the concept of setting boundaries. And when we're givers, when we're compassionate, you know, open door policy. We always have an open door policy. You have an issue, come to me immediately. And I love that. And I have the same thing with staff I've had. But I do want you to commit right now watching this to giving yourself 1 hour a day. 1 hour a day that is yours while you're at work. So, and of course there might be an emergency. So I'm not, you know, take it for what it's worth. But I want you to find an hour in the day. And if you're a morning person, I want you to take that hour early in the morning. If you function better in the afternoon, take that hour more towards the afternoon, whenever you feel like you're at peak performance in the day. But I want you to set that boundary. I want you to tell the people in your office, hey, I'm trying this new strategy. I'm looking to increase my productivity and efficiency from 9 to 10. I'm going to close my office door, and unless it's an emergency, I need this time for me. And what do you think you do with that hour? Your top priorities and your intentions you set get plugged in there.
That makes sense.
So it's like this, everything I just taught you is like it all ties together, but it's all simple. So call that like your power hour or your empower hour or whatever you want to call it. But you may not be able to allocate 8 hours, which is fine. But to be productive, if you had uninterrupted, non-distracted 60 minutes, how efficient do you think you could be if you knew what your priorities were and you were uninterrupted for 60 minutes? It's pretty powerful.
That's really awesome. That's an awesome tip. That is an awesome tip. I used to have a Three Stooges door hanger that I would put on my door to say, I'm busy right now. But I think the communication with the staff is key, because if you do, and we often do as a nonprofit, say open door policy, you ever have trouble, come see me, blah, blah, blah. And they ignore the sign or whatever. But if you send out some communication that says this time and this time is sacred and I'm working on this, that might help with.
Yeah. And another thing with boundary, like with your staff, is if you have that allocated time and it's consistent, it may take a little bit of adjusting, but if it's 9 to 10, Monday through Friday, people are going to start to know, oh, Sabrina's time, that's her empower hour, is 9 to 10. It's 9:15. I'll wait 45 minutes.
Right.
So it may take some adjusting with staff to get used to it, but it's not closing that open door policy concept. It's not shutting anyone out. It's just 1 hour that's really for you and focused time. Right.
So, and the other thing I was going to ask you this, because this is just for my own edification. I found myself, it's a part of procrastination, but I'm still doing things. If I enjoy doing something, I find myself putting more time into that, even if it doesn't move the needle. I don't know if that makes sense. So how do you get over that?
It does. So with that kind of thing, there's a couple different things you can try. So if you have certain tasks at work that you really don't like, I'm going to encourage you to knock them out in the morning. And here's why. You're talking about procrastination. In my email inbox, that's a horrible example because you have to be in and out of it. But I'm just saying, say I hate going through my emails. If I'm putting that off and putting that off and putting that off, how many times a day do you think you're thinking about the fact that you have to do it and you don't like it? So number one, you're taking up so much precious mental real estate thinking about the thing that you don't want to do that you're procrastinating. And number two, the truth is anything you pour hate onto grows more hate. So when you're I don't like this, and then you're, those two things are really not serving you like from a mental real estate perspective. So it's almost like if you just kind of, I don't want to say suck it up, buttercup. You just kind of like commit to yourself that, you know what, like, what's the trade-off here? I don't like doing this. It's going to take me 30 minutes. If I put it off till the last possible thing I have to do today, I'm going to be thinking about it all day. Do I really want to do that? Nope. Because that's more time I'm going to be thinking about what I don't want to do. And then if I just get it out of the way, then I can spend the rest of my day doing more of what I do enjoy. And the other thing you can do is find a way to celebrate yourself for accomplishing and doing tasks that you don't enjoy.
Okay.
And that may sound silly, but even if it's you're doing something you don't enjoy and it's done, play your favorite song and get up and dance. And just be like, I did it. I'm amazing. I got it done. Yeah, but anything like that, just like try to take that moment and celebrate yourself, because the reality is we all have things that we don't enjoy doing. But the more we put focus on it, the worse it kind of becomes. So if you can, it's almost making that commitment to yourself that get it done in the morning. And like, I hate making phone calls. Anytime I have to call my electric company cable, I hate being on hold. I dread it. It drives me crazy. I'm like, I don't know why I have to be pushed through 20 different people before I talk to the person I want to. So I used to put them off. I'm like, I don't want to deal with it. But then all day I'd be like, you dread it and then whatever. So if you just knock it out in the morning, then you're like, oh, it's done. It's over. I don't have to think about it. Was that helpful?
Yeah, that's helpful. That makes sense. It really does make sense, because that's one of the things I feel like I waste my time on. And it's true. I mean, I was very much into The Secret. What you focus on expands. So if you're constantly saying, I hate doing it, it's going to expand and grow. I just didn't make that connection. And yeah, you did a good job making that connection for me. So I don't know if there's anything else that you want to share with the group.
I think that kind of wrapped up the key points I wanted to talk about today.
Yeah, you know what? This has been so very helpful. And if someone wanted to reach out and get in contact with you, how would they do that?
If they just wanted to personally reach out, they could just email me at sarah@saracruzcoaching.com. My name's right on the Zoom, so it's no H. My website's the same, saracruzcoaching.com. And I do have a PDF that I gave to you to share with your group.
Yes.
And it does have 7 ways to increase productivity, most of which I did not touch on here because I knew I was giving it to anyone. So I kind of tried to touch on other things that weren't included in that information. So I think my email is on the bottom of that as well, if anyone has a
Perfect. And what's going to happen is I'm going to upload that into the group and into the files. And so it'll be there for everyone to find it. And hopefully people will take advantage of that. I know sometimes people get in groups and they ask the same questions, like, look in the file or look in the post office. It's there. It's going to be tagged. And this conversation itself is going to be tagged as a speaker series. So that people can go and find this. It's been such a great conversation. It's been such good information because I think that our nonprofit brothers and sisters just need to figure out these productivity hacks so that they can get, not be so overwhelmed and not be so stressed out. And so I'm so appreciative, Sara, that you decided to spend time with us today. I really, really do appreciate it. And next week, we're going to be discussing how to work with remote teams with Heather Burright. And I know that that has been a challenge for a number of people as well. So I'm going to leave you with this. Your mission matters and deserves to be highlighted in the community. Your mission matters and can be an inspiration to those who need it the most. Your mission matters and deserves to be funded to its fullest capacity. Your mission matters. Thank y'all so much for joining us today.